This is the difference of squares video for quiz B. Make sure you look at the top of your quiz and you see a B there. If you see A, please go back to the other video. So this is quiz B, difference of squares. When we do difference of squares, there's three things that we have to look for. The first thing is that we look for two terms. We definitely have two terms here. We have an x squared and we have a 144, so we're good there. That's two terms. Next, we look to see, do we have a negative sign? And we do. So that's good. Third, we look to see if our numbers are perfect squares. In this case, we do have a perfect square of 144. Now, the number in front of x squared is 1. So we want to make sure that that's a perfect square, and it is. So all three things are checked off. Two terms, subtraction, perfect square numbers. So we're ready to do a difference of squares problem. We take the square root of x squared, which is x, and that will go in the first slot of each parentheses. Then we take the square root of 144. You can do this in your calculator if you're not sure what it is. The square root of 144 is 12. One of your answers will have a plus, one of them will have a subtraction sign. And that's your answer for number 1. Number 2, same thing. We have two terms, we have subtraction, and we check to see, are our numbers perfect squares? 36 and 49 are perfect squares, so we can definitely take the square root of those. The square root of 36x squared is 6x. Just like in number 1, when we took the square root of x squared, it was x. So that same rule applies here in number 2. But instead of having a 1, we had a 36. So the square root of 36 is 6. That'll come before the x. Then we can take the square root of 49, which is 7. One of them is positive, one of them is negative. Our third problem, we check to see, do we have two terms? Yes. Do we have subtraction? Yes. Do we have perfect square numbers? No. So our option here is to either find a GCF, and if there's not a GCF, then it's prime. But there does happen to be a GCF in this problem. If you use your calculator and kind of do some guess and check, you will find that 3 goes into both 12 and 75. So we're going to go ahead and pull out a GCF of 3, which means we divide each term by 3. If I do 12 divided by 3, I end up with 4, and I'll keep my x squared. 75 divided by 3, or negative 75 divided by 3, is negative 25. This is a good answer, but we also need to check. Wait a second, we have two numbers inside our parentheses. That means two terms, which means, and a subtraction sign, which means this may be a difference of squares. So 4 and 25 are perfect squares, meaning we can actually do difference of squares on the inside here. So we'll keep our 3. We can take the square root of 4x squared and get 2x. And we can take the square root of 25 and we can get 5. One of them will be positive, one of them will be negative. And that's our final answer. Make sure that you put that GCF of 3 in your answer, because the answer would be wrong if you don't have that GCF in there. Okay, last one, number 4. On number 4, we have two terms. We have perfect squares. 9 and 100 are perfect squares, but our issue here is this plus sign. We cannot have a plus sign in a difference of squares problem. If we run into this, we need to check for GCF. There is no GCF here, so we say that this is prime.